Welcome to another edition of the LinkedIn Live series for Well Workplaces. And today I'm really pleased to be chatting with no one other than Riain Casey, the Fit Physio. Riain, how you going, mate?
I am very well, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming and taking a short lunch break today, mate. I wanted to get you on today, Riain, because I think most of us start the year with great intentions, especially on the exercise front. Summer's normally the time of year when everybody's probably their most active, and probably also setting some, resolutions for the year of how they're going to stay fit all year. But you and I know that, in the clinic and in our years of practice, I suppose, combined, when it gets to about maybe the June mark, we get sort of all sorts of requests from clients on, almost faking their own death to get out of these gym memberships. Today I'm keen to really chat about making, I suppose, exercise part of a lifestyle change that's sustainable and something that people can maintain for their whole year, and also build on it each year. So basically what I'm talking about really is best ways to create new active habits. Riain, with that in mind, and with gym memberships sort of peaking in January, February, I'd love to probably just open it up to you and for you to tell us what you're seeing or what you normally see with your clients at this time of year.
Yeah, for sure. I think this conversation probably follows on quite nicely from a chat we had before on the podcast around, I guess, the benefits or the physiological, if we were maybe delving into a bit more of the science and as to why we should exercise. And hopefully for anyone who did listen to that particular episode is maybe a little bit inspired as to why I'm constantly preaching about doing more and more exercise. But I think today we'll probably maybe have a bit more of a chat around, well, it's great that it's really good for you, but how do I actually, as you said, create a good habit or be as consistent as possible, And look, you're dead right. It is January and gym memberships are peaking and all the different advertisements for different gyms are, and rightly so, because it's their busiest time of year, are trying to draw you in as much as possible. And I think New Year's resolutions, particularly exercise-wise, New Year's resolutions tend to cop a bit of flack. People are like, oh, how long are you going to do it for realistically, or how long is this going to last? 2-week thing, a 3-week thing, and then you'll fall off the bandwagon, as a lot of us typically do. But to be honest with you, I actually see them as quite a good opportunity to just reflect on, I guess, your previous 12 months or your previous 6 months or whatever the case may be, and just almost like pushing the reset button and kind of starting as you mean to go on. I think probably where a lot of people fall down really, or a lot of people make mistakes, is they kind of rely on the same motivation that inspired them to create the New Year's resolution in the first place. And as you and I both certainly know, like trying to rely on motivation, there's always going to be days where you're not feeling motivated, and it is more about creating a sustainable habit and changing your mindset around exercise in general, to make it more sustainable, rather than, as I say, relying solely on that motivation that kind of kickstarted you to create that New Year's resolution in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it. There's so many great motivational exercises on YouTube and inspiring stories, but the problem really is motivation, as you say, is it's great for a few days or maybe a month or maybe a week, and we see that in the clinic and with people where maybe they've got a short-term goal, like I've got a wedding to get where I need to lose weight for, or something like that. It's maybe a bit more cosmetic goal. They really gun for that, but then after that, and they achieve their goal, they can revert back to old ways. And so, really keen to chat today about how do you get up on a Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. in the depth of winter and get some exercise done, and remember why you're doing it. Basically, I always think of that Tuesday morning, what in the depth of winter.
Yeah, for sure. Look, and I think the winter, I mean, there's no doubt that winter is definitely probably a tougher time to get yourself up out of bed in the morning and go for your 5K run or go to the gym or whatever the case may be. But look, I think using this first half of the year to really create those good habits is absolutely key. And where a lot of people fall down, as I said, is in those first couple of weeks and setting kind of unrealistic expectations for themselves. And obviously, with my background being, I'm a physio, so obviously a lot of what I see in the clinic is people who go from 0 to hero in January and end up hurting themselves as a result. So there's no bigger demotivator than injuring yourself. You set out with all these really good intentions. You might have set yourself a short-term goal to run a certain distance or to whatever, to lose X amount of kilos, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, you've broken down with a sore knee or a sore back, and that's that 0 to hero mentality is a real killer of motivation, and I guess just a killer of your exercise journey in general. So I think if you're starting off this year having as a complete beginner, let's say, and it's a completely new thing for you to start exercising, whether it be in the gym or whether it be running or whatever the case may be, it's really important to start small. And that is really my number one piece of advice for anyone, even if you've had a bit of a break over the Christmas period, whether it's 3 weeks, 4 weeks off, or you haven't quite been as consistent as you normally would be. Start small, and look, having a small target of exercising twice a week or 3 times a week, it gives you that little bit of wiggle room for those days maybe where you aren't feeling overly motivated, or you aren't feeling overly enthusiastic about putting on the pair of runners and heading out for a run. So you can, if you've got a poor night's sleep the night before, you've always got the next day. You know what I mean? So if you start small, when it comes to the end of the week and you're looking at your goals and have you achieved X, Y, or Z, you're more likely to have achieved it if the goal is smaller to begin with. Because ultimately, as we know, the whole thing is trying to create habits. So ultimately, if you can get that 2 to 3 days a week to start off, you do that for a month, let's say, and then you can add on top of that from there. I remember reading a study a long time ago now, and I can't remember the exact details, so you'll have to forgive me for the statistics, but it was all around behavioral change, or all around basically habit creation. So, and this particular study, I remember, basically said obviously individuals are very variable, but it quoted anything from, I think, to create a sustainable habit, anywhere between 18 days and I think it was about 250 or 260 days. So as you can see, that's hugely variable. And the habits, because we're obviously speaking specifically about exercise here, the ones that were more difficult or took longer were the ones that were more active. So things like trying to have a consistent exercise routine. So if you know that from the get-go, that it's going to take some time to create that good habit, it kind of puts your mind at ease a little bit when you have a bad week, or you have a bad couple of days where maybe you've fallen off the bandwagon a little bit, that it gives you that kind of inspiration or motivation to say, well, next week will be better,
Yeah, really good. I'm glad you mentioned that that study that you can't remember the name of, but the amount of days that it takes to create a habit, that's such a big range. I know that there's been a lot of quotes of you just need to do something every day for 90 days and it's locked in. That's definitely not the case, and that research that you've mentioned there sort of supports that. I think one thing that really needs to happen when people are getting into a routine and they are setting those small goals, it's actually not remembering why you did it as such, but more remembering the feeling that you get when you do the exercise or the whatever you're doing. So if your goal, let's assume the goal is to walk 15 minutes, add a 15-minute walk into your day to increase your movement in general. Let's say that's the goal and you do that. I suppose the key then on that day that you don't do it, or you're thinking, mate, I can't be bothered doing that. You need to remember the feeling that you get after that 15 minutes of that movement. So it might be, I feel a bit refreshed in my brain, or I feel lighter in my chest. I don't feel as anxious and stressed, and that kind of thing. Do you think that's key as well, Riain, from your point of view?
Yeah. Oh, listen, absolutely. There's no doubt that there's a lot of evidence to support the benefits, the immediate benefits of exercise, from a physical and from a mental health point of view. So absolutely, chasing that feeling, chasing the endorphin release immediately post exercise. And yeah, absolutely, the more you do it, the more you will recognize or remember those feelings that you get immediately post exercise, or as you say, if it's a collective thing after a couple of exercise sessions, how good you feel at the end of the week if you've had a good week of exercise. And as you say, remembering that and almost chasing that goal again, is really key.
Yeah, really good. And also within some of the apps that you've probably seen, Riain, like say Strava, or things like Calm, like the mindfulness, what they've started to do, I've noticed, is that they've started creating like streaks. So, if you do something every day for 7 days, like your Apple Watch that you've probably got on now, you get like this little badge or something like that. So it's kind of like that repetition, really ensuring that you keep those. If you don't have a fancy watch or a fancy app, is maybe just even tracking those streaks that you get on with your exercise, no matter what the new exercise routine is.
For sure. Look, I think it's funny you mentioned like the Apple Watch or things like Strava. They will send you a little notification as almost like a little reward, and human nature, like we respond to those kind of things. And it's the exact same little dopamine hit you might get when you get a like on a social media post. It's a reward for doing well. So I actually really like the advancements in technology in that sense for almost facilitating behavioral change. I feel like obviously there's quite a few negatives as well in terms of demotivating factors, but I think in that sense, the way you mentioned it there, I think that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, no, that's great, Riain. Riain, we've spoken a lot about the habit creation, and really from that chat we just had then, it's really starting small and building up. I'd love to just change our direction of combo a little bit and ask you, probably for your expertise in what's the latest in regards to how much exercise everyday punters should be doing.
Yeah, look, I think from my point of view, the overall goal might seem like a big picture goal for a lot of people, particularly people that might come in to see me in clinic. And again, going back to our discussion from earlier last year on the podcast, I think the reason I'm always pitching exercise is for those reasons and for the benefits, the physiological and benefits of exercise. But the overall, I guess, the recommendations for general population, and what I mean by general population is any basically healthy adults aging, I suppose, from 18 to your kind of 65, that kind of healthy population. And again, for the purpose of today's chat, we'll stick to that kind of age range, 18 to 65, your working population, is anywhere really you're looking to achieve 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise. So basically moderate intensity cardio type exercise. So for some people that might be like a brisk walk. For some people it might be a light jog. It might be a session on a bike, like a light bike ride to and from work, let's say, when offices do reopen. And then finally, on top of that, you also want to have a minimum of 2 resistance exercise sessions. So basically targeting all the major muscle groups. So, your core, your lower limbs, your push muscles, your pull muscles. So basically 2 resistance exercise sessions a week and 150 minutes, usually broken up into 30 minutes over 5 days. Or they say it can also be substituted for 20 minutes of higher intensity exercise every day. So looking at more like 100 minutes of higher intensity exercise versus your 150 minutes of of kind of moderate intensity. And now, like I said, some people might look at that at the start of January, and this is where I feel a lot of people go wrong. You might look at that at the start of January and think, oh my God, that's an awful lot, like 30 minutes every day, and then plus 2 strength sessions on top of that. So if someone comes into me in January and they've got an injury or they've got some sort of issue, I'm not going to say straight off the bat, this is what we're going to do next week. Going back to what we said before about starting small, that is in the back of my mind all the time, thinking these are the current recommendations. This is what I would love you to be doing. However, what you are currently doing is nothing. So let's start small, because that would be way too much for a total beginner to start with. And from my experience, that 0 to hero mentality just it causes a whole host of other issues, whether it's falling off the bandwagon because of a lack of motivation and then just no longer wanting to do it, or injury. Injury is a big one, because injury is going to slow down your momentum big time. So, and then it's kind of trying to get back to the start again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it how you've described that there. And one of the words or phrases that I've used a lot in my past life as a physio is the boom bust cycle. I used to draw it out for people to explain that you might go really hard in this month, but then and from an injury perspective as well, you can run into trouble literally and burn and crash. And when you were saying that there, it reminded me of dieting as well. And that's something we won't talk about, because we know generally about it, but we're not experts in the field for dietetics as such. But we see people go hard nutrition and movement in January, February, and then somewhere between sort of April, June, they fall over and things stop. So you're really great to hear also the actual science around it, and the fact that really for people, you got to start somewhere, right? So you got to start right at the beginning and build it up. And it sounds like through your treatments and your consultations, you guide people through that journey and that process, which is awesome. Riain, just to finish off.
Oh, sorry, no, go on. I
was just going to say, mate, Riain, is there any other, so to maintain physical fitness all the way through the year beyond April, when I'm saying that people are faking their own death to get out of Fitness First memberships, what are your tips for maintaining things throughout the whole year?
Yeah, look, I think we've been speaking probably around that first half of the year largely, and it is for every reason that we've just said, it is about taking those when maybe motivation is a little bit more than it is, and a little bit higher than it is in the second half of the year, weather is a little bit better, taking advantage of that first initial 3, 4, 5 months, and really trying to hone in on the habit creation and really creating that change. I think another big thing is people's mindset around exercise and changing that. I think a lot of people, if they have a specific target, let's say of weight loss, I'll just use weight loss as an example, and if they've overindulged maybe a little bit over the Christmas period and put on a little bit of weight or whatever, they see exercise as a punishment, and changing your mindset around moving from exercise being a punishment rather than celebrating exercise as it's more of a privilege. And, celebrating the fact that you can move, you can do all these things, because at the end of the day, sadly, not everyone can. So celebrating your body's ability to be able to do these things, and kind of trying as much as you can to move away from the idea that exercise is like a punishment for yourself for putting on these extra kilos or whatever the case may be. And once you get that kind of shift in mindset to as I say, celebrate your body's ability to move, and I feel like that can help with that kind of the whole point of habit creation and positive habit creation.
Yeah, really good, mate. I'm glad you mentioned mindset, because as the years go by, and I'm 37 going on 38 this year, each year, to be honest, it does get a little bit more difficult, because you've got other things going on in your life. You've got more things to look after, whether that be kids or mortgages and houses and things. And sometimes along the way, exercise and movement and eating well and all the stuff that we know we should do for ourselves does fall down the priority list. And then at some point, you got to get to that point where you can reflect on the year, maybe celebrate what you did do in 2020, and then plan ahead for this year. But really starting small is the key message from what you're saying. And I absolutely love that you've mentioned mindset there, because if you don't get that right to begin with, you're probably on a course to boom bust. It is a trajectory of probably failure in the plan that you had at the beginning.
Yeah, look, 100%. I mean, you might last a couple of weeks with, as I say, that kind of negative mindset around, I'm punishing my body for treating it so badly for however long beforehand, but then it's realistically only going to last so long until you have that shift in mindset. And I feel like that's really key in habit creation as well.
Yeah. Riain, thanks so much for your tips today. I think we've had a really great discussion, and also there's lots of value in that. For the listeners as well, if you would like to hear more from Riain has his own podcast called The Fit Physio, available on Spotify. And Riain's also been a guest on our podcast, Well Workplaces, where we talked about resistance training. So please follow Riain and connect with him on LinkedIn and all the other channels, and have a listen to him for more great information about physical activity, movement, exercise, and physiotherapy. Riain, thanks again, mate. Appreciate your time.
No, thanks for having me, Tom.
All right, take care, mate. See ya.
Thanks. See ya. Bye-bye.